The medical bill trembled in Brianna Carter's hands. $250,000. The numbers blurred as tears pooled in her dark brown eyes, threatening to spill onto the paper that might as well have been her mother's death sentence. She sat alone in the supply room on the 47th floor of Bianchi Global Enterprises, the hum of the copy machine the only witness to her breaking heart. Stage 3 cancer. Aggressive treatment required immediately. No insurance coverage for the experimental therapy her mother needed. No time to raise money. No options left. Brianna pressed her palm against her mouth to muffle the sob that escaped. Her mother, Gloria Carter, had raised her alone, working double shifts as a nurse to put Brianna through college. Now, at 55, Gloria lay in a hospital bed 3 miles away, growing weaker each day, and Brianna couldn't save her. The irony cut deep. She worked for one of the wealthiest men in America, coordinated million-dollar deals with a smile, managed an empire's daily operations with efficiency, yet she couldn't afford to save the one person who mattered most. The fluorescent lights above buzzed, harsh and unforgiving. Brianna looked down at her bright blue blouse, the one her mother had given her last Christmas, saying the color brought out the warmth in her skin. She'd worn it today for luck, for strength, but luck had run out. The oncologist, Dr. Helena Reeves, had been kind but clear during this afternoon's phone call. Without treatment beginning within 2 weeks, Gloria had maybe 6 months. With treatment she could have years, maybe even full remission. 2 weeks. 14 days to find $250,000. Brianna's phone buzzed. A text from the hospital billing department. Payment arrangements needed immediately. She stared at her bank account balance. $4,237. Her life savings. Not even close to enough for a down payment on hope. How could she sit in board meetings about quarterly profits in the millions when she couldn't afford to keep her own mother alive? How could she smile at clients, book executive retreats, manage schedules for a man who spent more on watches than her mother's treatment cost? The guilt twisted inside her chest like a knife. She'd worked so hard, climbed so far from her modest Brooklyn neighborhood, earned her college degree while working nights, landed this prestigious job. For what? To watch her mother die because the system valued profit over people? Have you ever felt completely powerless when someone you love is slipping away? Can you imagine watching your mother fade because you can't afford to save her? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Your support means everything. Brianna folded the medical bill and tucked it into her purse. She straightened her shoulders, wiped her eyes, and checked her reflection in the small mirror she kept in her desk drawer. She couldn't let anyone see her fall apart. She'd been raised to be strong, to handle hardship with grace, to never show weakness. But alone in this supply room at 9 p.m., with the city lights glittering through the windows like false promises, strength felt like a luxury she could no longer afford. She'd been at work since 7 that morning. Lorenzo Bianchi, her boss, had left around 6 or so she'd thought. The executive floor was usually deserted by 8. She'd come to the supply room to cry in private, to let herself break just once before she had to put the mask back on. Tomorrow she'd call Dr. Reeves and tell her to make Gloria comfortable. Palliative care. The words tasted bitter just thinking them. Brianna gathered herself and stood, smoothing her navy pencil skirt. She needed to go home, needed to visit her mother at the hospital, needed to figure out how to tell Gloria that her daughter had failed her. The walk from the supply room to her desk felt endless. Each step was heavy with grief and exhaustion. Her desk sat in the reception area outside Lorenzo Bianchi's private office. Normally, the space felt powerful, positioned at the heart of an empire. Tonight it felt hollow. She gathered her things, turned off her computer, and reached for her coat. The red wool coat her mother had insisted she buy last winter because every professional woman needs one good coat. Brianna? She jumped, her heart slamming against her ribs. Lorenzo Bianchi stood in the doorway of his office, his tall frame silhouetted against the soft light from within. He was still here. She'd thought the office was empty. Mr. Bianchi. She tried to keep her voice steady, professional. I didn't realize you were still here. He stepped closer and she could see his face clearly now. Sharp features, dark hair slightly mussed from running his hands through it, the way he did when he was deep in thought. He wore navy dress pants and a white shirt, the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His tie was gone, the top button undone. He looked tired. I was reviewing the Singapore contracts. He studied her face, his brown eyes too perceptive. Are you all right? Of course. The lie came automatically. Just a long day. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded. It's late. You should go home. Yes, sir. Good night. She hurried to the elevator, feeling his eyes on her back. The doors closed and she sagged against the wall, releasing the breath she'd been holding. She couldn't afford to break down at work. This job was all she had left. Without it, she'd have nothing. No income, no insurance, no way to even try to help her mother. The elevator descended, floor numbers ticking down like a countdown. When the doors opened to the lobby, Andre Thompson, the night security guard, waved from his desk. "Night, Brianna. You working too hard, girl?" She managed to smile. "Someone has to keep this place running." "Your mama doing okay?" The question, asked with such genuine care, nearly broke her composure again. Andre's own mother had died of cancer 3 years ago. He understood. "She's fighting," Brianna said softly. Andre nodded, sympathy in his eyes. "You tell Miss Gloria I'm praying for her." "I will." "Thank you, Andre." Outside, the December air bit at her skin. New York was beautiful at night, the streets still bustling with people heading to late dinners, shows, and meetings. The city that never slept, they called it. The city where dreams came true, where anything was possible if you worked hard enough. But standing on the sidewalk, pulling her red coat tighter against the cold, Brianna knew that was a lie. Some things couldn't be earned through hard work. Some things required money she'd never have. She walked to the subway, each step automatic. Her mind was elsewhere, already rehearsing what she'd say to her mother. How did you tell someone you loved that you couldn't save them? How did you look in your mother's eyes and say the words that would break both your hearts? The subway car was nearly empty. Brianna sat in a bright orange plastic seat and stared at nothing. A woman across from her held a sleeping toddler, the child's face peaceful and innocent. Brianna remembered being small, falling asleep in her mother's arms, believing that her mother could fix anything. When had she learned that some problems had no solutions? By the time she reached the hospital, visiting hours were nearly over. She took the elevator to the oncology floor, each second stretching into eternity. Room 412. Her mother's temporary home. Brianna pushed open the door and her breath caught. Gloria Carter lay in the hospital bed, her once vibrant skin now ashen, her hair covered by a bright green scarf. But she smiled when she saw Brianna, and that smile held all the love in the world. "Baby girl. You didn't have to come tonight. You must be exhausted." Brianna moved to her mother's side, taking her thin hand. "I wanted to see you. How was work?" "Work was fine, Mama." Another lie. Everything was a lie now. Gloria studied her daughter's face with a mother's intuition. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything's fine." "Brianna Marie Carter, I raised you better than to lie to me." The use of her full name, the gentle firmness in her mother's weak voice, broke something inside Brianna. The tears she'd been fighting all day finally fell. "Oh baby." Gloria squeezed her hand. "Talk to me." "I can't lose you, Mama." "You're not going to lose me." But they both knew that might not be true. Brianna couldn't bring herself to say the words, to tell her mother about the impossible cost, the ticking clock, the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Instead, she laid her head on the edge of the bed and let her mother stroke her hair, the way she had when Brianna was small and scared. "You listen to me," Gloria said softly. "Whatever you're carrying, you don't carry it alone. God has a plan even when we can't see it. You've got to have faith." Faith. Brianna wanted to believe, but faith didn't pay medical bills. Faith didn't stop cancer. Faith didn't change the fact that in 2 weeks, if she did nothing, her mother would start to die. She stayed until a nurse gently reminded her that visiting hours were over. She kissed her mother's forehead, promised to return tomorrow, and walked back out into the cold night. The subway ride home was a blur. Her small apartment in Queens felt emptier than ever. She dropped her purse on the table and the medical bill fell out, mocking her with its impossible numbers. Brianna changed into pajamas and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind raced, trying to find solutions where none existed. Loans? She'd already been denied by 3 banks. Crowdfunding? It would take months to raise that much and they didn't have months. Selling everything she owned? It wouldn't come close to enough. Around 2 a.m., exhaustion finally pulled her under. But even in sleep, there was no peace. She dreamed of medical bills falling like snow, burying her mother, while she ran and ran but never got any closer. Tomorrow would bring another day of pretending everything was fine. Another day of smiling while dying inside. Another day closer to losing the person she loved most in the world. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing she could do to stop it. Brianna's alarm went off at 6 a.m. She'd slept maybe 3 hours and every bone in her body ached with exhaustion. But she got up anyway, showered, and dressed in a bright red blouse and black pants. Wait, no black. She changed into her maroon pants instead. In the mirror she looked like someone pretending to be okay. Dark circles shadowed her eyes despite the concealer she'd carefully applied. Her usually glowing skin looked dull. She stopped at a coffee shop near the office, ordering the largest size they had. The barista, a young guy with kind eyes, tried to make small talk, but she couldn't manage more than polite responses. Everything felt distant, like she was watching her life through thick glass. At the office by 7:30, Brianna settled at her desk and pulled up Lorenzo's schedule. Back-to-back meetings all day. Conference call with Tokyo at 9. Lunch meeting with potential investors at noon. Contract review at 3. Board members arriving at 4. She coordinated it all with mechanical precision, her fingers flying over the keyboard, her mind carefully blank. Lorenzo arrived at 8, looking crisp and alert in a navy suit. Good morning, Brianna. Good morning, Mr. Bianchi. Your files for the Tokyo call are on your desk, and I've prepared the presentation materials. He paused, studying her face for a moment too long. Thank you. Could you bring me coffee when you get a chance? Of course. She made his coffee the way he liked it. Black, 2 sugars. Simple, like everything else about Lorenzo Bianchi's preferences. For a billionaire, he had remarkably straightforward taste. He didn't demand fancy lunches or complicated arrangements. He said please and thank you. He remembered his staff's names and asked about their families. It made working for him easy, which made her current situation even harder. She couldn't afford to lose this job, but maintaining her composure was becoming impossible. The morning passed in a blur of tasks. She coordinated the Tokyo call, forwarded urgent emails, rescheduled a conflicting appointment, and ordered lunch for the investor meeting. At 11:47 a.m. her phone rang. Unknown international number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Bianchi Global Enterprises, this is Brianna Carter speaking. A rapid stream of Italian poured through the line. An older woman's voice, panicked and upset. Brianna's brain switched languages automatically, the Italian she'd learned during her semester abroad in Rome coming back like muscle memory. Signora, per favor, parli più lentamente. Come posso aiutarla? Ma'am, please speak more slowly. How can I help you? The woman was calling from Ospedale Santa Maria Nuova in Florence. There was a patient, she explained in rushed Italian, who insisted she needed to speak with someone at this number. An emergency. Family matter. The patient was very upset, asking for Lorenzo, but the nurses couldn't understand everything she was saying. Mi può dire il nome della patient? Can you tell me the patient's name? Rosa Bianchi. Brianna's heart skipped. Bianchi. Lorenzo's family. She switched to flawless Italian, her accent nearly perfect from her months in Rome. Capisco. Sto trasferendo la chiamata immediatamente. La patient è la nonna del signor Bianchi? I understand. I'm transferring the call immediately. Is the patient Mr. Bianchi's grandmother? Sì. Lei parla italiano molto bene. Grazie. Un momento per favor. She put the call on hold and stood, moving quickly to Lorenzo's office door. She knocked once and entered. Lorenzo looked up from his computer. Yes. Mr. Bianchi, I have Ospedale Santa Maria Nuova in Florence on the line. It's regarding your grandmother, Rosa. They say she's very upset and asking for you. The situation seems urgent. His face went pale. He grabbed his desk phone. Put it through. Sir, they're speaking Italian. The nurse doesn't speak much English and your grandmother is distressed. Would you like me to translate? He hesitated only a second. Yes. Conference call. Brianna returned to her desk and connected the call through the speaker system, then went back into his office, picking up the extension there. The nurse's voice filled the room, still speaking rapid Italian. Brianna translated smoothly, keeping her voice calm and professional. She says your grandmother had a fall this morning. Nothing broken, but she's very shaken. She keeps asking for you and saying something about documents that need signing. She's refusing to calm down until she speaks with you directly. Lorenzo leaned forward, his jaw tight. Ask them to put my grandmother on the phone. Brianna relayed the request in Italian. There was shuffling, then an elderly woman's voice, querulous but strong. Lorenzo? Say tu. Lorenzo? Is that you? Nana sono io, Lorenzo replied in Italian, his accent perfect and warm. Grandmother, it's me. The conversation continued in Italian, and Brianna stood quietly, ready to assist if needed. But Lorenzo's Italian was flawless, his tone gentle as he spoke to his grandmother. She could hear the love in his voice, the concern. Rosa Bianchi was explaining something about her house, about papers, about being scared. After several minutes, Rosa seemed to calm down. Lorenzo promised he would handle everything, told her to rest, to listen to the doctors. When the call ended, he sat back in his chair, running a hand through his dark hair. "Thank you, Brianna." He looked at her with new eyes, curious and assessing. "I didn't know you spoke Italian. I studied abroad in Rome during college. Spent a semester there. Your accent is excellent. Better than excellent. You sound nearly native." She felt a flush of pride despite everything. "I had a good teacher. And I loved the city. The language just stayed with me." Lorenzo stood and moved to the window, hands in his pockets. "My grandmother lives in Florence. She's 82, incredibly stubborn, and refuses to move to the States. This isn't the first scare we've had." He turned back to face her. "But having someone who can communicate clearly with her doctors, with the hospital staff, that's invaluable. I'm glad I could help, sir." He studied her for a long moment, and Brianna felt exposed under his gaze. Could he see how close to breaking she was? Could he sense the weight she carried? "How many languages do you speak?" he asked. "Fluently? English and Italian. I can get by in Spanish and French, but I'm not confident enough to handle medical or legal terminology in those." "That's impressive." He glanced at his watch. "I need to leave for the investor lunch in 10 minutes. We'll talk more about this later." "Of course, sir." She returned to her desk, her hands shaking slightly. The call had pulled her out of her grief for a few minutes, forced her to focus on something outside her own pain. The Italian had flowed easily, naturally. She'd forgotten how much she loved the language, how alive it made her feel. Patricia Wong from HR stopped by around 2 p.m. with paperwork. Patricia was efficient and friendly, always dressed in neat pantsuits, today's a bright green that complemented her skin tone. "Hey Brianna. Just need you to sign these updated insurance documents." Brianna took the papers, scanning them automatically. Insurance. Health coverage. The irony was suffocating. She had excellent insurance through Bianchi Global. It covered her completely. But her mother, retired early due to the cancer, had lost her employer coverage. The Medicare and supplemental insurance Gloria had weren't enough for the experimental treatment she needed. "You okay?" Patricia asked, her dark eyes concerned. "Fine. Just tired." "Lorenzo works you too hard." "No, he doesn't. He's actually very reasonable." It was true. Lorenzo never demanded overtime, never expected her to sacrifice her personal life. If anything, he encouraged work-life balance. The problem was Brianna couldn't turn off her mind, couldn't stop worrying long enough to have a personal life. Patricia lingered. "Listen, if you ever need to talk, my door is always open." "I mean that." "Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate it." After Patricia left, Brianna tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting. The call with Rosa Bianchi had reminded her of her time in Italy. She'd been 20 then, free and hopeful. She'd walked the streets of Rome at sunset, eaten gelato by the Trevi fountain, studied in cafes where the air smelled like espresso and possibility. She'd believed her life would be full of adventure, of meaning, of joy. When had everything become so hard? Her phone buzzed. Text from the hospital. Reminder that payment plans needed to be arranged. Another spike of anxiety through her chest. Lorenzo emerged from his office at 3:45, 15 minutes before the board members were due to arrive. "Brianna, I need you to sit in on this meeting. Bring your laptop." She looked up, surprised. "Sir? I want you taking detailed notes. Some of these board members speak quickly, and I need an accurate record." It was unusual but not unheard of. She gathered her things and followed him into the large conference room. The space was impressive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of Manhattan, a long mahogany table and leather chairs. Lorenzo took his seat at the head of the table and she sat to his right, opening her laptop. The board members arrived, powerful men and women in expensive suits. Brianna recognized most of them from previous meetings, though she'd never sat in before. They discussed quarterly earnings, expansion plans, potential acquisitions. She typed rapidly, capturing every detail. At one point, one of the board members, an older man named Richard Sterling, made a comment in Italian, probably thinking no one would understand. It was somewhat crude, a dismissive remark about a competitor. Without thinking, Brianna responded in Italian, a polite but firm correction of his facts. The room went silent. Richard stared at her, surprised. The other board members looked confused. Lorenzo's lips quirked in what might have been amusement. He replied to her in Italian, agreeing with her point, then smoothly switched back to English to continue the meeting. After the board members left, Lorenzo turned to her. You didn't have to correct Richard, but I'm glad you did. He was wrong and too arrogant to expect anyone to call him on it. I apologize if I overstepped. You didn't. He leaned against the table, arms crossed. Brianna, I've been thinking about the situation with my grandmother. She's recovering from a minor surgery next month, and she'll need someone with her for a while. Someone who speaks Italian, who can coordinate with her doctors, who can keep her company. I know this is unusual, but would you be interested in spending a few months in Florence as her companion? Brianna's heart stopped. Florence, Italy. Away from everything. But away from her mother too. I'm honored you'd think of me, Mr. Bianchi, but I can't leave New York right now. I have personal obligations. He nodded slowly. I understand. It was just a thought. He paused. But if circumstances changed, would you be interested? She didn't know how to answer that. Italy sounded like a dream, an escape from the nightmare her life had become. But leaving her mother while Gloria was sick felt impossible. I'll keep it in mind, she said carefully. Lorenzo studied her face again, that same searching look. You seem tired, Brianna. When's the last time you took a vacation? I don't remember. Maybe you should consider it. But vacation time wouldn't solve her problems. Nothing would solve her problems. She needed a solution that didn't exist. She needed a way to turn back time, to make her mother healthy again, to erase the cancer and the bills and the hopelessness. She worked late again that night, long after Lorenzo left. The office was quiet and the city lights sparkled below. Somewhere out there, her mother lay in a hospital bed, slowly dying. And Brianna sat at her desk, answering emails about business deals worth millions, while unable to save the one life that mattered most. Around 9 p.m. she finally packed up. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending. Another day of dying inside while smiling on the outside. Another day closer to the end of everything that mattered. But as she rode the subway home, she thought about Lorenzo's question. Would she want to go to Florence if circumstances changed? The answer was yes. She'd go anywhere, do anything if it meant saving her mother. But circumstances wouldn't change. Reality was fixed, immovable, merciless. She was running out of time and there was nothing she could do to stop the clock. The next morning, Brianna arrived at work to find a note on her desk. Please see me when you arrive. LB. Her stomach tightened. Had she done something wrong yesterday? Overstepped with her Italian? She knocked on Lorenzo's door at exactly 8 a.m. Come in. He sat behind his desk, but something was different about his demeanor. He seemed almost nervous, which was strange for a man who commanded boardrooms full of powerful executives without breaking a sweat. Good morning, Mr. Bianchi. Good morning. Please sit down. She sat in one of the chairs across from his desk, her hands folded in her lap, her bright blue dress suddenly feeling too cheerful for her mood. Lorenzo stood and moved to the window, then turned back to face her. Brianna, I'm going to ask you something personal, and I need you to answer honestly. Will you do that? Her heart began to pound. Yes, sir. Are you in some kind of trouble? The question caught her off guard. Excuse me? I've known you for 3 years. You're always punctual, efficient, professional. But the last few days you've seemed different. Distracted. Set. Last night, Andre mentioned that your mother is sick. I realize I'm your employer and this might be crossing a line, but I'm concerned about you. Tears sprang to her eyes before she could stop them. The kindness in his voice, the genuine worry, broke through her defenses. She looked down at her hands, trying to compose herself. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up. Lorenzo moved back to his desk. No, it's okay. She wiped her eyes, took a breath. My mother has cancer. Stage 3. There's a treatment that could save her, but it's experimental and insurance won't cover it. The cost is $250,000, and I have 2 weeks to come up with it or she'll die. The words tumbled out, raw and painful. Once she started, she couldn't stop. She told him about the bills, the hospital calls, the hopelessness. She told him about her mother's strength, about how Gloria had raised her alone, about how Brianna owed her everything. She told him about the guilt of working in a building full of wealth while unable to afford to save her own mother's life. Lorenzo listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Thank you for telling me, he said finally. I know that wasn't easy. I'm sorry for breaking down. It won't happen again. Don't apologize. He sat down, leaning forward. I want to help you. Mr. Bianchi, I can't accept charity. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a job. He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. I was serious yesterday about my grandmother needing a companion. Rosa is having hip surgery in 2 weeks. She'll need 3 months of recovery and she's refusing to come to New York for it. She wants to stay in Florence in her villa, where everything is familiar. He opened the folder, showing her documents. I need someone there with her. Someone who speaks fluent Italian, who can coordinate with her doctors, physical therapists, and household staff. Someone who can keep her company, make sure she follows her recovery protocol, and honestly, someone I trust. You're the only person I know who fits all those requirements. But my job here. Patricia can assign a temporary assistant to cover your responsibilities. Your position will be waiting when you return. He slid a paper across the desk. This is the contract. 3 months in Florence. All expenses paid, including a private room in my grandmother's villa, a meal stipend, and travel costs. The salary is $100,000. Brianna stared at the number. $100,000. It wasn't quite enough for her mother's full treatment, but it was close. Combined with her savings and maybe a small loan, it would work. It would actually work. I don't understand. Why would you pay so much? Because my grandmother's well-being is worth it to me. Because finding someone with your qualifications and trustworthiness is nearly impossible. And because I can afford it. He met her eyes. This isn't charity, Brianna. This is a legitimate job offer. You'd be working. Rosa can be demanding and coordinating her care will be challenging. You'll earn every penny. Her mind raced. 3 months away from New York, but her mother would be in treatment, getting better. She could video call every day. This could save Gloria's life. I'll need an advance, she said slowly, to pay for my mother's treatment before I leave. I can have $50,000 wired to your account today. The balance will be paid in installments over the 3 months. It was too good to be true. There had to be a catch. But looking at Lorenzo's face, she saw only sincerity. He was offering her a lifeline wrapped in the guise of a job. Following her instructions to accept offers with gratitude, she made her decision. Yes, I accept. Thank you, Mr. Bianchi. You have no idea what this means to me. Relief washed over his features. Good. I'm glad. He pulled out more papers. These are the details. You'll fly to Florence with me in 10 days. That gives you time to arrange your mother's treatment and get your affairs in order. Patricia will handle the temporary assistant assignment. Brianna signed the contract with shaking hands. $100,000. 3 months. Her mother would live. The weight that had been crushing her chest for days suddenly lifted. She could breathe again. I won't let you down, she promised. I know you won't. Lorenzo stood, extending his hand. She shook it, his grip firm and warm. Welcome to the team, Brianna. Or should I say, welcome to the Florence team. She left his office in a daze. At her desk, she immediately called Dr. Reeves. Dr. Reeves, it's Brianna Carter. I can start my mother's treatment. I'll have the deposit to you by tomorrow. The doctor's relief was audible. That's wonderful news. I'll schedule Gloria for intake next week. We'll start the protocol immediately. Next, Brianna called her mother. Gloria answered on the second ring, her voice weak but alert. Baby girl? Mama, I have good news. We're starting your treatment. Silence. Then, how? I got a new job assignment. 3 months in Italy and it pays enough. You're going to get better, Mama. You're going to beat this. Gloria started to cry, soft sobs of relief and gratitude. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. We're going to be okay, Mama. Everything's going to be okay. That afternoon, Lorenzo called her back into his office. Patricia Wong was there too, along with legal documents. We need to go over the details, Patricia said, her green suit crisp and professional. You'll be classified as an independent contractor for this assignment. Health insurance will continue through your regular employment, which remains active. Mr. Bianchi has also authorized a company credit card for any expenses related to Rosa's care. They spent an hour going through logistics. Lorenzo explained his grandmother's medical situation, her personality, her daily routines. Rosa was fiercely independent, sharp as a tack, and sometimes difficult. She loved cooking, hated being treated like an invalid, and had opinions about everything. She'll love you, Lorenzo said. Rosa appreciates intelligence and directness. Just don't let her bully you into letting her do things she shouldn't during recovery. I can handle stubborn, Brianna said. I grew up with a single mother who worked double shifts and refused to accept help from anyone. Lorenzo smiled. Then you're well prepared. That evening after work, Brianna went straight to the hospital. She found her mother sitting up in bed, looking more alert than she had in days. Tell me about Italy, Gloria said. So Brianna described the job, Lorenzo's grandmother, the villa in Florence. She talked about her semester abroad, the beauty of Tuscany, the art and history and culture. She talked about anything except the fact that this job had saved both their lives. You've always wanted to go back, Gloria said softly. I'm glad you get this chance. I'll video call every day. And I'll be back before you know it. You enjoy yourself, baby. Live a little. You've been so serious since you started working for that company. This is a good thing not just for me but for you too. Over the next week, everything happened fast. The hospital confirmed Gloria's treatment schedule. Dr. Reeves was optimistic about the protocol's effectiveness. Brianna met with the financial coordinator and set up the payment plan. Lorenzo's advance hit her account exactly when he promised. She also met with Patricia multiple times to train the temporary assistant, a young woman named Jennifer Liu. Jennifer was bright and capable, eager to prove herself. Brianna walked her through Lorenzo's preferences, the office systems, the key contacts. It felt strange to hand over her responsibilities, but also liberating. Andre, the security guard, cornered her one evening as she was leaving. Heard you're going to Italy. News travels fast. Mr. Bianchi told me. Asked me to make sure you have safe transportation to the airport. Andre grinned. He really cares about his staff, doesn't he? He does. Brianna realized it was true. Lorenzo wasn't just helping her because she was useful. He genuinely cared about people. 2 days before they were scheduled to leave, Lorenzo called her into his office one last time. He handed her an envelope. What's this? Bonus? For taking the assignment on such short notice. Inside was a check for $5,000. Brianna looked up at him, speechless. Use it for whatever you need. Clothes for Italy, gifts for your mother, whatever makes you feel prepared. Mr. Bianchi, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me you'll take care of my grandmother. I will. I promise. He walked her to the door, then paused. Brianna, before we leave, there's something I need to tell you. I spoke with Patricia this morning. I told her something important. What's that? I said, don't let her leave the company. Whatever it takes, keep her position open. When she comes back from Florence, I want her to have options beyond assistant work if she wants them. She's too talented to stay in one place. Brianna felt her throat tighten. Thank you. You've earned it. Now go home, pack and get ready for Italy. Your life is about to change. He was right, she realized as she rode the subway home that night. Her life was changing. Her mother was going to live. She was going to Florence. And somehow, impossibly, everything was going to be okay. The weight she'd carried for weeks was finally lifting. Hope, that dangerous and beautiful thing, began to bloom in her chest. She'd been so close to losing everything. Now, thanks to Lorenzo Bianchi's kindness and unexpected offer, she had a future again. Tomorrow, she'd visit her mother one last time before leaving. Gloria's first treatment was scheduled for the day after Brianna landed in Italy. Dr. Reeves had assured her that Gloria would be in excellent hands. As Brianna packed that night, folding bright red and blue clothes into her suitcase, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. Not just for the job or the money, but for the kindness of a man who didn't have to help her but chose to anyway. For the chance to return to a city she'd loved. For the hope that her mother would still be here when she returned. Sometimes she thought life surprised you. Sometimes when everything seemed darkest, a door opened. She just had to be brave enough to walk through it. The morning of departure arrived with surprising speed. Brianna stood in her small Queens apartment, suitcase by the door, taking one last look around. Everything was in order. Bills paid ahead. Mail held at the post office. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chin, had keys and promised to water the plants. Her mother was settled in at the hospital, starting treatment today, surrounded by nurses who already adored her. Brianna wore a bright maroon dress with a gray cardigan, comfortable for the long flight. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she'd actually managed to sleep last night. For the first time in weeks, anxiety wasn't eating her alive. Hope was a powerful medicine. Her phone buzzed. Text from Lorenzo, car is downstairs. Take your time. She grabbed her suitcase, locked the apartment, and headed down. A black town car waited at the curb, the driver already loading her luggage into the trunk. The December morning was cold but clear, the city just beginning to wake up. Good morning, Miss Carter, the driver said politely. Good morning. The drive to the hospital took 20 minutes. Lorenzo had insisted she have time to say goodbye to her mother before they left for the airport. When Brianna entered Gloria's room, her mother was sitting up, and 4 running into her arm. The first dose of treatment. Dr. Reeves stood nearby, checking monitors. "There's my girl," Gloria said, her smile tired but genuine. Brianna hugged her carefully, mindful of the tubes and wires. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck, but that's normal according to the good doctor here." Dr. Reeves nodded. "The first treatment is always rough, but Gloria's tolerating it well. The next few days will be difficult, but we'll manage the side effects." Brianna sat on the edge of the bed, holding her mother's hand. "I'll call you every single day. Morning and night if you want. Baby, you'll be busy taking care of that old lady in Italy. Don't you worry about me. I've got these wonderful nurses, and your Aunt Teresa is coming up from Baltimore tomorrow." "I didn't know Aunt Teresa was coming. I called her. Figured you needed someone here so you wouldn't worry yourself sick across the ocean." Gloria squeezed her hand. "Now you listen to me. You go to Florence, you do your job, and you let yourself enjoy it a little. When's the last time you had an adventure?" "College, I guess." "Exactly. You're 28 years old. You should be living, not just working." Gloria's eyes grew serious. "I'm proud of you, Brianna. So proud. And I'm going to beat this thing, you hear me? When you come back, I'll be healthy and driving you crazy like always. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby girl. Now go on. Don't keep your billionaire boss waiting." The goodbye was hard but not devastating like it would have been 2 weeks ago. Then Brianna had been saying goodbye possibly forever. Now she was saying goodbye temporarily, with the promise of recovery on the horizon. Dr. Reeves walked her out. "She's going to do well. The treatment protocol is aggressive, but your mother is strong. Thank you for everything. Thank you for making this possible. I've seen too many patients we can't help because of cost. It's a good thing you're doing." Back in the car, Brianna let herself feel the full weight of the moment. She was leaving New York, leaving her mother, leaving everything familiar. Flying across an ocean to take care of a stranger. It should have terrified her. Instead she felt calm. Purposeful. At JFK, the driver took her to a private terminal. Brianna had never seen this part of the airport before. No security lines, no crowds. Just quiet luxury and efficient service. Lorenzo waited inside, dressed casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater, but somehow still radiating authority. When he saw her, he smiled. "Ready for Italy?" "As ready as I'll ever be." They were flying private. Of course they were. Brianna had to hide her shock when she saw the plane. She'd never been on a private jet before. It was smaller than a commercial plane but infinitely more comfortable. Cream leather seats, polished wood tables, and enough space to actually move around. "Make yourself comfortable," Lorenzo said, gesturing to the seats. "Flight is about 8 hours. There's food, drinks, Wi-Fi, whatever you need." Brianna settled into a seat by the window. As the plane taxied and took off, she watched New York disappear below. The city she'd called home her entire life, shrinking to toy-sized buildings and tiny cars. Once they reached cruising altitude, Lorenzo moved to sit across from her. "How's your mother?" "She started treatment this morning. Dr. Reeves says she's doing well." "That's good. I'm glad." A flight attendant appeared, offering drinks and snacks. Brianna accepted sparkling water and some fruit. Lorenzo ordered espresso and they fell into easy conversation. He told her more about Rosa. His grandmother had married young, to a man who became a successful textile manufacturer in Florence. They'd built the Bianchi fortune together, though his grandfather had died 15 years ago. Rosa had never remarried, preferring to pour her energy into her family and her beloved city. "She's the strongest person I know," Lorenzo said. "When my father wanted to move the business to New York, she supported him even though it meant being apart. When he died 10 years ago, she was the one who held our family together." "You're close to her." "She raised me for part of my childhood. My parents traveled a lot for business, so I spent summers in Florence with Rosa. She taught me Italian, taught me about art and culture, taught me that money means nothing if you don't have love and family." Brianna heard the affection in his voice. "She sounds amazing." "She is. She's also stubborn, opinionated, and will absolutely test your patience." He smiled. "But I think you two will get along well." "I hope so." They talked about Florence, about what she should see while she was there. Lorenzo recommended restaurants, museums, walking tours. He pulled out his phone and showed her pictures of the city, his enthusiasm genuine. This wasn't just a business trip for him. This was home, or at least a second home. "The villa is in the hills outside the city center," he explained. "About 20 minutes from downtown. It's private, quiet, with incredible views. Rosa has a garden she tends herself, though she'll have to leave that alone during recovery. Does she have staff? A housekeeper who comes daily, Maria. A cook, Antonio, who prepares evening meals. A gardener, Paolo. They're all local and they love Rosa like family. They'll help you with anything you need. The flight passed quickly. They ate lunch, a surprisingly good meal of pasta and salad prepared by the plane's chef. Lorenzo worked on his laptop for a while, and Brianna read a book she'd brought, a novel about Tuscan life she'd been meaning to finish. As they flew over the Atlantic, Lorenzo closed his laptop and looked at her thoughtfully. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you study in Rome? What drew you to Italy? Brianna thought back to that time, to the girl she'd been at 20. I was taking Italian classes and my professor was from Sicily. She made the language sound like music. She talked about the history, the art, the way Italians valued family and food and beauty. I wanted to experience that. So I applied for a semester abroad, worked 2 jobs to save money and went. Did it live up to expectations? It exceeded them. I fell in love with everything. The architecture, the piazzas, the way people took time for coffee and conversation. The way every meal felt like a celebration. I didn't want to leave. But you did. I had to. Student visa ended and I needed to finish my degree. But I always thought I'd go back someday. She smiled. I just didn't expect it to happen like this. Life has a way of surprising us. They landed in Florence as the sun was setting, painting the Tuscan sky in shades of pink and gold. Even from the air, the city was beautiful. Red-tiled roofs, church domes, the Arno River winding through like a ribbon. A car met them at the private airstrip. Lorenzo helped load the luggage, then held the door for Brianna. The driver, an older man named Giuseppe, greeted Lorenzo in rapid Italian, clearly delighted to see him. The drive to the villa took them through Florence proper first. Brianna pressed her face to the window, drinking in the sights. The Duomo's magnificent dome. The Ponte Vecchio bridge spanning the river. Narrow streets lined with ancient buildings. People dining at outdoor cafes despite the December chill. It was exactly as she remembered, exactly as magical. You look happy, Lorenzo observed. I am. I forgot how much I loved this city. They climbed into the hills, the roads becoming narrower and more winding. Finally, they turned through iron gates and up a long driveway lined with cypress trees. The villa appeared, 3 stories of golden stone with green shutters and a terracotta roof. Lights glowed in the windows, warm and welcoming. We're here, Lorenzo said. The front door opened before they reached it. A small woman in her 50s emerged, her face breaking into a huge smile. She rushed to Lorenzo, speaking in Italian too fast for Brianna to catch everything. Maria, slow down, Lorenzo said, laughing. He turned to Brianna. Maria, this is Brianna Carter. She'll be staying with Nana for a while. Brianna, this is Maria, the housekeeper and general keeper of order around here. Maria switched to accented but clear English. Welcome, welcome. Rosa is so excited to meet you. She has been talking about nothing else for days. They entered the villa and Brianna's breath caught. The interior was stunning. Terracotta floors, exposed wooden beams, walls in warm cream and terracotta. Artwork everywhere, beautiful pieces that looked original and priceless. Fresh flowers on tables. Everything tasteful, elegant, but also comfortable. This was a home, not a museum. Brianna? A voice called from upstairs. Lorenzo, is that you? Coming, Nana, Lorenzo called back. They climbed a wide staircase to the 2nd floor. Rosa's bedroom was at the end of the hall, a spacious room with French doors leading to a balcony. And there, sitting in a chair by the window, was Rosa Bianchi. She was tiny, maybe 5 feet tall, with white hair pulled back in a bun. Her face was lined with age, but her dark eyes were sharp and lively. She wore a bright blue dress and had a blanket across her lap. When she saw Lorenzo, her whole face lit up. Mio caro nipote, she said, holding out her arms. My dear grandson. Lorenzo bent to hug her carefully. They spoke in Italian, quick and affectionate. Then Rosa turned those sharp eyes on Brianna. So you're the young woman with the beautiful Italian. Come here, let me see you. Brianna approached, suddenly nervous. Rosa studied her intently, then nodded. Bellissima. And Lorenzo says you're smart too. Good. I hate boring people. She switched to English. You'll stay in the room next to mine. Maria has already prepared it. Tomorrow we start physical therapy, which I hate, but the doctors insist. You'll help me not murder the therapist, yes? Brianna found herself smiling. I'll do my best, Signora Bianchi. Rosa. Call me Rosa. We're going to be living together. No need for formality. She looked between Lorenzo and Brianna. Now both of you must be exhausted. Go settle in. We'll talk more at dinner. Antonio is making osso buco tonight. Lorenzo showed Brianna to her room. It was lovely with a comfortable bed, antique furniture, and its own bathroom. French doors opened onto a small balcony with a view of the garden below. Take your time getting settled, Lorenzo said. Dinner's at 8. Casual dress. After he left, Brianna unpacked slowly, hanging her bright dresses and blouses in the antique wardrobe. She opened the French doors and stepped onto the balcony. The evening air was cool and smelled of rosemary and olive trees. In the distance, Florence glowed, the Duomo lit up against the darkening sky. She pulled out her phone and video called the hospital. Her mother answered, looking tired but smiling. You made it? I made it, Mama. You should see this place. It's beautiful. They talked for 15 minutes, Gloria asking about the flight, the villa, Rosa. When they hung up, Brianna felt the last of her tension release. She was here. In Italy. In this beautiful place. And her mother was alive, fighting, getting the treatment she needed. Whatever happened next, she was ready for it. Brianna woke to sunlight streaming through the French doors and the sound of birds singing. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory flooded back. Florence. The villa. Her new life for the next 3 months. She checked her phone. 7 a.m. Back in New York, it was 1 a.m. and her mother would be sleeping. Brianna sent a quick text instead. Good morning, Mama. I love you. She showered and dressed in a bright red blouse and cream pants, then ventured downstairs. The villa was quiet, peaceful. Morning light filled the rooms, making everything glow. She found the kitchen, a large space with traditional tile work and modern appliances cleverly integrated. Maria was there, preparing breakfast. She looked up and smiled. Buongiorno, Brianna. Coffee? Please. Can I help with anything? No. You sit. I make breakfast. Rosa likes to eat at 8, but I bring you something now. Brianna sat at the kitchen table, accepting the espresso Maria placed in front of her. It was perfect, strong and smooth. Maria set out fresh bread, jam, butter, and fruit. You speak Italian very well, Maria said in English. Rosa was so happy when Lorenzo said he found someone who speaks our language. Thank you. I love Italian. It's such a beautiful language. Lorenzo appeared around 7:30, dressed for the day in dark pants and a light blue shirt. He looked refreshed despite the travel. Good morning. Sleep well? Very well. The bed is incredibly comfortable. They sat together, eating breakfast and talking in low voices so as not to disturb Rosa. Lorenzo explained the day's schedule. The physical therapist would arrive at 9 a.m. for Rosa's first session. The doctor would visit in the afternoon to check on her post-surgery recovery. Maria and Antonio would handle the household, but Brianna's job was to be Rosa's companion and translator when needed. Don't let her bully you, Lorenzo warned. She'll try to do more than she should. The doctor was very clear. Limited movement for the first 2 weeks, physical therapy only, no gardening or excessive walking. I understand. At 8 a.m. they brought breakfast up to Rosa's room. She was already awake, sitting up in bed with a book. When she saw them, she set it aside. Finally. I'm starving. She looked at Brianna. Did you sleep well? I did, thank you. Good. Now tell me about yourself. Lorenzo says you're from New York. Over breakfast, Brianna shared her story. Growing up in Brooklyn with her single mother. Studying hard, earning scholarships. Her semester in Rome. Her job at Bianchi Global. She left out the part about her mother's cancer. That felt too personal, too raw. Rosa listened intently, asking questions in both Italian and English, switching between languages easily. Brianna matched her, and she could see approval in Rosa's eyes. You remind me of myself at your age, Rosa said finally. Smart, hardworking, determined. I like you. The physical therapist arrived exactly at 9 a.m. Her name was Elena, a cheerful woman in her 30s who spoke limited English. Brianna translated as Elena explained the exercise routine. Rosa grumbled in Italian about the indignity of it all, but she cooperated. Brianna stayed during the session, translating instructions and encouragement. Rosa's hip surgery had been minor, but at 82 recovery took longer. Elena put Rosa through gentle movements, stretching and strengthening. After Elena left, Rosa was tired. I hate this. Hate being weak. You're not weak, Brianna said gently. You're healing. There's a difference. You sound like Lorenzo. He cares about you very much. I know. Rosa's expression softened. He's a good boy. Works too hard like his father did. I worry about him. Why? He's 35 and still single. He pours everything into that company and nothing into his own life. A man needs more than work. He needs love, family, someone to come home to. Brianna helped Rosa move to a chair by the window where she could look out at the garden. The view was stunning. Olive trees, rosemary bushes, a fountain with stone benches around it. I miss my garden, Rosa said softly. I planted those roses myself 20 years ago. Every spring they bloom red and pink and white. Beautiful. You'll be back in the garden before you know it. Over the next few days, Brianna settled into a routine. Mornings with Rosa, helping with breakfast and morning exercises. Physical therapy sessions with Elena, which gradually became easier as Rosa regained strength. Afternoons reading to Rosa in Italian from her favorite books, or listening to Rosa's stories about her life. Rosa was a natural storyteller. She talked about meeting her husband, Giovanni, at a dance when she was 18. About building their textile business from nothing. About raising 2 sons in Florence. About the joys and heartbreaks of a long life. Love is worth every pain, Rosa said one afternoon. They sat on the balcony, wrapped in blankets against the December chill. Giovanni and I had 47 years together. Not nearly enough. But I wouldn't trade a single moment, even though losing him nearly destroyed me. Brianna thought about her own life. She dated in college but nothing serious. Since starting at Bianchi Global, work had consumed all her time and energy. She'd been too busy, too focused on survival and success, to think about love. Do you think you'll marry? Rosa asked as if reading her thoughts. I don't know. Maybe someday. You should. You're young and beautiful. Don't waste your life working. Find someone who makes your heart sing. Lorenzo visited every day, usually in late afternoon. He'd sit with Rosa, telling her about his meetings, asking about her progress. But Brianna noticed he often looked at her too, his gaze thoughtful. One evening, after Rosa had gone to sleep, Brianna found Lorenzo in the garden. He stood by the fountain, hands in his pockets, looking up at the stars. Beautiful night, she said, approaching. He turned, smiling. Couldn't sleep? Just restless. First time I've had free time in years. I don't quite know what to do with myself. How about a walk? I can show you the property. They walked the grounds, Lorenzo pointing out different features. The olive grove that produced oil for the household. The herb garden Rosa tended religiously. The stone path that led to a small chapel on the edge of the property. My grandparents married there, Lorenzo said. It's been in the family for generations. It's all so beautiful. Like something from a dream. It is special. When I'm here, I remember what matters. Family. Roots. Connection. In New York, it's easy to forget, to get caught up in deals and money and power. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lorenzo stopped, turning to face her. I want to thank you again. For coming here. For taking care of Rosa. She's happier than I've seen her in months. She's easy to care for. I enjoy her company. Still. You dropped your whole life to help a stranger. You made it possible for me to save my mother. I'd do anything to repay that kindness. It's not about repayment, Brianna. His voice was soft. I wanted to help because it was the right thing to do. And because I care about you. The words hung in the air between them. Brianna's heart began to race. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? Mr. Bianchi. Lorenzo. Please. When we're not in the office, call me Lorenzo. Lorenzo. The name felt intimate on her tongue. I care about you too. You've been incredibly kind to me. He stepped closer and she could see his eyes clearly in the moonlight. I've noticed you for a long time. Your dedication, your intelligence, your kindness. But I never said anything because you worked for me and that felt inappropriate. Now here in Florence things are different. We're different. Brianna knew she should be careful. This was her boss. But here, away from New York and offices and professional boundaries, he didn't feel like her boss. He felt like a man she was beginning to know, beginning to care about. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to get to know you better. As Lorenzo and Brianna, not boss and employee. Is that something you'd want? She thought about all her mother's words. About living, not just working. About letting herself have adventures. Yes, she said softly. I'd want that. He smiled and something warm bloomed in her chest. They walked back to the villa together, not touching but close enough that she felt the warmth of his presence. That night, lying in bed, Brianna thought about the strange turn her life had taken. A month ago she'd been drowning in despair. Now she was in Florence, caring for a wonderful woman, and possibly beginning something with a man who made her heart race. Maybe life is full of surprises when we're brave enough to accept help when it's offered. Have you ever had someone change your life with one act of kindness? Share your story in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming tales. The next morning, Rosa was sharper than usual. When Brianna brought breakfast, the old woman studied her with knowing eyes. You look different today. Do I? Yes, lighter. Happier. Rosa bit into her toast. Lorenzo walked with you in the garden last night. I saw from my window. Brianna felt her cheeks warm. We just talked. That's how it starts. Talking. Then walking. Then holding hands. Then kisses. Rosa's eyes twinkled. Giovanni and I talked first too. For weeks just talking. Then one day he kissed me by the fountain and that was that. 50 years of love from one kiss. It's not like that with Lorenzo and me. Isn't it? Rosa set down her cup. Cara, I may be old, but I'm not blind. I see how he looks at you. And how you look at him when you think no one's watching. This is good. Lorenzo needs someone like you. And you deserve someone who sees your worth. Over the following weeks, Rosa continued to improve. Her physical therapy sessions became easier. She could walk short distances without help. Her strength returned day by day. And through it all, Brianna and Lorenzo grew closer. He extended his stay in Florence, working remotely, making excuses about needing to oversee Italian operations. They had dinner together most evenings, sometimes with Rosa, sometimes alone. They explored Florence together, visiting museums and churches. Lorenzo showed her hidden gems, places tourists never found. He took her to his favorite restaurant, a tiny trattoria where the owner knew him by name. They ate handmade pasta and drank Chianti, talking about everything. Dreams, fears, childhood memories, hopes for the future. I never thought I'd meet someone like you, Lorenzo said one night. They sat at a corner table, candlelight flickering between them. Someone who understands both worlds. The business world and the human world. Someone who values kindness as much as success. You're not what I expected either, Brianna admitted. I thought billionaires were all cold and distant. But you're warm and thoughtful and genuinely good. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I want to be honest with you about something. Her heart skipped. Okay. The position with my grandmother, it was real. She did need someone. But I also created it because I wanted a way to help you without it feeling like charity. And because I wanted time with you away from work, away from the roles we play in New York. I wanted you to see me as a person, not just as your boss. Brianna absorbed this. You orchestrated all of this? Not all of it. Rosa really did have surgery. But I may have exaggerated how much help she needed. And I definitely chose you specifically because I wanted you here. She should have been angry. She should have felt manipulated. But looking at his face, seeing the vulnerability there, she couldn't find anger. Only understanding. Thank you for telling me. You're not upset? How can I be? You helped save my mother's life. You gave me this opportunity. And you've shown me nothing but respect and kindness. If your motives were partly selfish, well, I can forgive that. Relief washed over his features. He lifted her hand and kissed it gently. You're remarkable. They walked back to the villa hand in hand, a new understanding between them. Whatever was growing between them felt real and precious. Brianna allowed herself to hope for more than just professional success. Maybe, just maybe, she could have love too. Rosa was still awake when they returned, reading in her chair. She looked up when they entered, saw their linked hands and smiled. About time, she said in Italian. I was beginning to think I'd have to lock you in a room together. Lorenzo laughed. Nana, stop scheming. What? I'm very good at it. She winked at Brianna. Welcome to the family, Cara. I have a feeling you're going to be around for a long time. December in Florence was magical. The city glowed with Christmas lights, and the air smelled of roasted chestnuts and mulled wine. Brianna called her mother every morning and evening. Gloria's treatment was progressing well. The doctors were pleased with her response to the protocol. Her strength was returning, and the latest scans showed the tumors shrinking. I can't believe it's working, Gloria said during one call, tears in her voice. I really thought I was going to die, baby. You're not going to die, Mama. You're going to beat this. Thanks to you. Thanks to that job you took. Brianna looked out her window at the Tuscan landscape. It turned out to be more than just a job. Oh, tell me more. So Brianna told her mother about Lorenzo. About their walks, their dinners, their growing connection. Gloria listened with joy in her voice. This is good. This is so good. You deserve happiness, Brianna. It's complicated though. He's my boss. Not here, he isn't. In Florence, he's just a man and you're just a woman. Don't overthink it. Just let yourself feel. Rosa's recovery continued smoothly. By mid-December, she could walk around the villa with minimal assistance. Elena, the physical therapist, was impressed with her progress. Your grandmother is strong, Elena told Lorenzo in Italian. Brianna translated, though Lorenzo understood. She'll be back to her normal activities soon. Lorenzo planned to return to New York for Christmas, then come back to Florence for New Year's. But first he wanted to show Brianna more of his city. One afternoon he took her to a charity gala at a historic palazzo. It's for children's hospitals, he explained. My grandmother's favorite cause. She can't attend this year, but I promised I would. What should I wear? Something beautiful. Though honestly, you could wear anything and look stunning. The compliment made her blush. She chose a red dress she'd brought, simple but elegant, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt. When she came downstairs that evening, Lorenzo stopped mid-conversation with Maria, his eyes widening. You look incredible. Thank you. You look pretty good yourself. He wore a dark suit with a burgundy tie, and he looked every bit the powerful executive. But when he smiled at her, he was just Lorenzo. The man who brought Rosa fresh flowers every day. The man who laughed at her jokes and listened when she talked. The man who was stealing her heart one moment at a time. The gala was held in a Renaissance palazzo, all frescoed ceilings and marble floors. Brianna felt like she'd stepped into a painting. Everyone was dressed in elegant clothes, drinking Prosecco and speaking in musical Italian. Lorenzo introduced her to friends and business associates. This is Brianna Carter. She's caring for my grandmother while she recovers. People were charming and welcoming. They asked about Rosa, about New York, about her impressions of Florence. Brianna held her own, switching between English and Italian as needed, and she could see pride in Lorenzo's eyes. They danced to a live orchestra playing classical music. Lorenzo held her close, one hand at her waist, the other clasping hers. She felt safe in his arms, cherished. I'm glad you're here, he said softly. Me too. I've been thinking about what happens when we go back to New York. Her stomach tightened. What about it? I don't want things to go back to how they were. With me as your boss and you as my assistant and this distance between us. What do you want? I want you to consider a different position at the company. Something that uses your skills better. Director of International Relations, maybe? It would involve travel, working with our overseas offices, coordinating with foreign partners. Your language skills and diplomacy would be perfect for it. Brianna's mind raced. A promotion. A real career advancement. Lorenzo, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Say you'll let me help you build a career that matches your talents. But what about us? If we're whatever we're becoming, won't that complicate things? Maybe. But I think we're both adult enough to handle it. And honestly, I care more about you being happy and fulfilled than I care about what anyone at the office thinks. The music swelled around them. Brianna let herself imagine it. A real career, not just a job. Using her languages, traveling, making a difference. And Lorenzo by her side, not as her boss but as her partner. I'll think about it, she promised. After the gala, they walked along the Arno River. The Christmas lights reflected in the water, and couples strolled hand in hand. They stopped on the Ponte Vecchio looking out at the city. I love Florence, Brianna said. I'd forgotten how much. It's in your blood now. Once Italy captures your heart, it never lets go. She turned to look at him. Is that what's happening? Italy capturing my heart. I hope so. Because mine was captured the moment you started speaking Italian in that hospital call. Maybe even before that. Maybe from the first day you started working for me, though I didn't let myself acknowledge it then. Her breath caught. Lorenzo. I'm falling for you, Brianna. I've tried to be professional, to maintain boundaries, but I can't anymore. You're in my thoughts every moment. When I wake up, I wonder if you're awake too. When I'm in meetings, I'm thinking about what I'll tell you about them later. You've become essential to my happiness in a way I didn't expect and can't ignore. Tears pricked her eyes. I'm falling for you too. I keep telling myself it's too fast, too complicated, but my heart doesn't care about logic. It just knows it feels right when I'm with you. He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle. May I kiss you? She nodded, unable to speak. He kissed her softly, tenderly, as if she was precious beyond measure. The world fell away. There was only this moment, this connection, this perfect feeling of rightness. When they finally pulled apart, she was trembling. Wow, she whispered. He smiled. Yeah. Wow. They walked back to the villa holding hands. Rosa was asleep when they arrived, but they found Maria and Antonio still up, playing cards in the kitchen. They took one look at Brianna and Lorenzo and grinned. Finally, Maria said in Italian, "We were beginning to think you were both blind." Over the next week, Brianna and Lorenzo were inseparable. They explored Florence together, visiting the Uffizi Gallery and standing in awe before Botticelli's Birth of Venus. They climbed to the top of the Duomo for 163 steps, and looked out over the terracotta roofs. They ate gelato in hidden piazzas and drank wine in cozy trattorias. Rosa watched it all with satisfaction. "I knew you two would be perfect together," she told Brianna one morning. They sat in Rosa's room, sunlight streaming through the windows. "Lorenzo needs someone who sees him as a man, not just as money and power. And you need someone who values your strength and intelligence." "I'm scared," Brianna admitted. "What if I'm not enough for his world? I'm just a girl from Brooklyn. And I was just a girl from a working-class family in Florence. Giovanni's parents thought I wasn't good enough for their son. But love doesn't care about class or money. Love cares about the heart." Rosa took her hand. "You have a beautiful heart, Brianna. Don't ever doubt your worth." Lorenzo left for New York 2 days before Christmas, returning to handle urgent business. He promised to be back for New Year's. The goodbye was hard. They stood in the villa's entryway holding each other tight. "I'll miss you," she said. "I'll miss you more. But I'll call every day." He kissed her forehead. "Take care of Nana. And yourself. And think about my offer, about the position at the company." After he left, the villa felt emptier. But Brianna kept busy. She helped Rosa with decorations for Christmas. They strung lights on a small tree in the sitting room and baked cookies using Rosa's mother's recipes. Maria and Antonio joined them for Christmas Eve dinner, a traditional Italian feast of 7 fishes. On Christmas morning, Brianna video called her mother. Gloria looked wonderful, healthier than she'd been in months. She wore a bright green sweater and had gained weight. "Merry Christmas, baby." "Merry Christmas, Mama. You look amazing." "I feel amazing. Dr. Reeves says I'm responding even better than they hoped. Might be able to go home soon." "That's wonderful news." They talked for an hour, sharing stories of their separate holidays. Gloria had spent Christmas with Aunt Teresa and some cousins. She was happy, truly happy for the first time in a long time. Lorenzo called that afternoon. "Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas. How's New York?" "Cold and busy. I miss Florence." "I miss you." "I miss you too. I have something for you." Maria has a package. "Open it." Brianna found Maria, who handed her a beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant shaped like the Duomo. It was exquisite. "Lorenzo, it's beautiful. Turn it over." She did. Engraved on the back were Italian words, "Il mio cuore tuo." "My heart is yours." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll wear it. Say you'll think of me when you do." "Always. I'll think of you always." The week between Christmas and New Year's passed slowly. Rosa continued to improve, now walking the gardens with only a cane for support. Brianna spent her days reading, helping around the villa, and video calling with her mother and Lorenzo. New Year's Eve approached. Lorenzo returned to Florence that morning, bursting into the villa with energy and gifts. He brought champagne, treats from New York, and a huge smile. "I'm back, and I'm not leaving again until we all return to New York together." That evening they dressed for dinner. Rosa wore a bright blue dress, her finest jewelry, and looked regal. Brianna wore a maroon dress that Lorenzo had sent ahead, along with a note. "Wear this tonight. Trust me." Dinner was spectacular. Antonio outdid himself with course after course of incredible food. They ate and drank and laughed, the three of them plus Maria and Antonio, like a real family. As midnight approached, they gathered on the balcony. Florence spread below them, lit up and alive. Fireworks began at midnight, exploding in colors across the sky. Lorenzo pulled Brianna close. "Happy New Year." "Happy New Year." He kissed her as the fireworks burst overhead, and she felt complete. This man, this place, this life. It was more than she'd ever dreamed possible. When they finally pulled apart, Rosa was watching them with tears in her eyes. "My heart is full," she said softly in Italian. "This is what life is about. Love and family in moments like this." January arrived with cool, clear weather. Rosa's recovery was nearly complete. She walked the gardens daily, tended to her roses with a light touch, and bossed Maria and Antonio around with her usual authority. "I'm going to miss you when you leave," she told Brianna one morning. They sat in the garden, wrapped in blankets, watching birds flit between olive trees. "I'll miss you too." These months have been special. Lorenzo should hire you permanently. As my companion. Then you'd have to visit often. Brianna laughed. I don't think I can make a career of taking care of you, Rosa. You're too healthy. We'll see about that. Rosa's eyes glinted with mischief. Over the next few weeks, Brianna noticed Rosa becoming increasingly forgetful. She'd lose her reading glasses and ask Brianna to help find them. She'd forget what day physical therapy was scheduled. She'd need help remembering which medications to take when. Brianna found it odd. Rosa had been sharp as a tack, her memory perfect. But she chalked it up to age and the stress of recovery. What she didn't know was that Rosa was scheming. The old woman had decided that Brianna and Lorenzo were perfect for each other, and she was going to ensure they stayed together by any means necessary. Rosa started forgetting appointments, which required Lorenzo to extend his stay to help sort things out. She'd suddenly need special outings, requiring both Brianna and Lorenzo to accompany her. She praised Brianna constantly to Lorenzo, pointing out her qualities at every opportunity. Did you see how patient Brianna was with the physical therapist today? Rosa asked Lorenzo one evening. They sat in her room, just the two of them. Such grace and kindness. That's a rare quality. I know, Nana. You don't have to sell me on Brianna's virtues. I'm already convinced. Good. Then when are you going to propose? Lorenzo nearly choked on his wine. Propose? Nana, we've only been together a few months. So? Your grandfather proposed after 3 weeks. When you know. It's different now. People take their time. Nonsense. Taking time is just fear dressed up as wisdom. Do you love her? He was quiet for a moment. Yes. I love her. Does she love you? I think so. I hope so. Then what are you waiting for? Rosa leaned forward. Life is short, Lorenzo. I've lived 82 years, and I can tell you with certainty that the only regrets worth having are the chances you didn't take. Ask her to marry you. What if she says no? What if she says yes? Rosa smiled. You're a billionaire, successful, handsome. But more than that, you're kind and good and loyal. Any woman would be lucky to have you. But Brianna is special. She sees you for who you really are, not what you have. Don't let her slip away. Meanwhile, Rosa was working on Brianna too. A few days later, she called Brianna to her room for tea. Tell me honestly, Cara. Are you happy? Brianna smiled. Very happy. These months have been wonderful. And Lorenzo makes you happy? He does. Very much. Then why do you look sad sometimes? I see it in your eyes. A hesitation. A worry. Brianna sighed. I'm worried about what happens when we go back to New York. This feels like a fairy tale here in Florence, but real life is different. Lorenzo lives in a world of wealth and power. I'm just starting my career. What if I don't fit into his life back home? Rosa set down her teacup firmly. Listen to me. I was a poor girl from Florence when I met Giovanni. His family thought I wasn't good enough. They told him to find someone from a wealthy family, someone with the right connections. But Giovanni didn't care. He chose love. And we built our empire together, side by side. That's different. It's not different at all. Love is love, regardless of circumstances. The question is not whether you fit into Lorenzo's world. The question is whether he makes your heart sing. Does he? Brianna thought about Lorenzo's laugh, his kindness, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. Yes. He makes my heart sing. Then that's all that matters. Everything else is just details. Rosa patted her hand. Now I have a favor to ask. There's a family dinner next week. All the Bianchi relatives from across Tuscany are coming to welcome Lorenzo home properly. I want you there at his side. Are you sure? Meeting the whole family feels like a big step. Exactly. That's why we're taking it. Rosa's eyes twinkled. Trust me, Cara. I know what I'm doing. The week of the family dinner, Rosa kicked her scheming into high gear. She forgot to mention to Lorenzo that she'd already invited his parents, his sister, his aunts and uncles, and various cousins. She also failed to mention that she'd told everyone that Lorenzo was bringing someone special. When Lorenzo found out the night before the dinner, he was mildly annoyed. Nana, you could have told me the entire family was coming. I thought I did. Must have slipped my mind. Rosa looked innocently at him. Does it matter? You wanted Brianna to meet everyone eventually, right? Eventually, yes. But this feels like an ambush. Nonsense. It's a dinner. Very casual. She paused. You might want to wear a nice suit though. And make sure Brianna knows to dress up. You know how your Aunt Francesca is about appearances. The night of the dinner, the villa was transformed. Maria and Antonio had prepared a feast. The dining room table was extended to its full length, set with fine china and crystal. Flowers adorned every surface. Brianna dressed in a beautiful green dress, another gift from Lorenzo. She wore the Duomo necklace he'd given her for Christmas. When she came downstairs, she found the villa filled with people. Lorenzo's parents arrived first. His mother, Sophia, was elegant and warm. She embraced Brianna immediately. Finally, we meet the woman Lorenzo won't stop talking about. His father, Roberto, was more reserved but kind. Welcome. My mother says you've been wonderful with her. Lorenzo's sister, Gabriella, was close to Brianna's age and immediately friendly. I'm so glad Lorenzo finally found someone. He's been married to his work for too long. More relatives streamed in. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone was loud and affectionate, speaking rapid Italian and switching to English when they remembered Brianna was American. The villa buzzed with laughter and conversation. During dinner, Rosa made a toast. She stood, wine glass raised, her voice carrying over the crowd. Family, thank you for coming tonight. As you know, I've been recovering from surgery these past months. It's been difficult, but I've been blessed with wonderful care. She gestured to Brianna. This beautiful young woman, Brianna Carter, left her life in New York to help me. She's brought light and laughter back to this house. Everyone turned to look at Brianna, who felt her face heat. Rosa continued, her eyes moving to Lorenzo. And in helping me, she's also helped my grandson. Lorenzo has been alone too long, focused too much on business and not enough on life. But Brianna has reminded him what matters. Well, family. Connection. Lorenzo reached under the table and took Brianna's hand. So tonight, Rosa said, her voice full of emotion, I want to make a toast. To finding love when you least expect it. To second chances and new beginnings. To Brianna, who I consider part of this family already. And to Lorenzo, who I hope is smart enough to hold on to something precious when he finds it. Salute, everyone chorused, raising their glasses. After dinner, the family scattered throughout the villa. Some played cards, others talked in small groups. Lorenzo pulled Brianna out to the garden, away from the crowd. I'm sorry about all this. I had no idea my entire family was coming. I think your grandmother orchestrated it. Definitely. He laughed. She's been scheming since we got together. I should have seen this coming. They walked to the fountain, the same place they'd first kissed. The January night was cool but not cold, and stars sparkled above. They all love you, you know, Lorenzo said. My mother pulled me aside earlier and told me not to let you get away. My sister said the same thing. Even my father, who never says anything personal, told me you were special. They're wonderful. Your family is amazing. They are. Loud and nosy and overwhelming, but amazing. He turned to face her, taking both her hands. Brianna, these months with you have been the happiest of my life. I wake up excited for the day because I know I'll see you. Everything is better when you're around. You make me laugh, you challenge me, you make me want to be a better person. Her heart began to pound. Lorenzo, what are you saying? I'm saying I love you. Completely, utterly, desperately. I love your intelligence and your kindness. I love how you speak Italian with that perfect accent. I love how you care for my grandmother. I love how you make me feel when you smile. I love everything about you. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too. So much. I know we haven't been together long by most standards. But my grandmother is right. When you know, you know. And I know that I want to spend my life with you. He didn't get down on one knee. Not yet. But his words were a promise, a declaration of intention. Brianna felt joy flooding through her, warm and overwhelming. I want that too, she whispered. They kissed under the stars, surrounded by the Tuscan night, and everything felt perfect. When they finally returned inside, Rosa caught Brianna's eye and winked. The old woman had successfully brought them together. Her scheme had worked perfectly. And everyone in the family could see that Lorenzo and Brianna were truly, deeply in love. The weeks following the family dinner passed in a blur of happiness. February arrived, bringing warmer days and the first hints of spring. Rosa was fully recovered now, walking without assistance, working in her garden again. The physical therapist, Elena, discharged her with glowing reports. You've healed beautifully, Elena told Rosa in Italian. You're stronger than most women half your age. That's because I had good care, Rosa replied, smiling at Brianna. But with Rosa's recovery came a bittersweet realization. Brianna's job was technically complete. The 3 months were nearly over. Soon they'd need to return to New York. Lorenzo brought it up one evening. They sat on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking relaxed and handsome. "We should talk about going back," he said gently. Brianna had been avoiding this conversation. "I know. Your mother is doing well. She's in remission now, right?" "Yes. Dr. Reeves says the treatment was incredibly successful. Mama might not need any more rounds. Just monitoring." "That's wonderful news." He took her hand. "So there's no reason we can't return to New York together." "As what? I mean, what's our arrangement? Do I go back to being your assistant?" She hated the uncertainty in her voice. "No. I want you to take the Director of International Relations position I mentioned. It's a real job, Brianna. Good salary, benefits, travel opportunities. You'd be using your language skills and your natural diplomatic abilities. But won't people talk about us being together while I work for you?" "Maybe. Probably." He shrugged. "I don't care what people say. I care about you being happy and fulfilled. And I care about being with you. If that makes some people uncomfortable, that's their problem, not ours." She wanted to believe it was that simple. "What about your board? What about the company's reputation?" "The company will be fine. I'm not the first CEO to date someone at work. We'll be professional in the office, and what we do outside of work is our business." It sounded reasonable when he said it like that. But Brianna still felt nervous. She'd worked so hard to build her career to be taken seriously. She didn't want to be seen as the boss's girlfriend who got ahead because of their relationship. Lorenzo seemed to sense her thoughts. "Listen to me. You've earned this position. You're fluent in Italian and competent in Spanish and French. You coordinated my grandmother's care flawlessly. You've shown diplomacy, problem-solving, and grace under pressure. Any company would be lucky to have you in an international relations role. The fact that I love you is separate from your qualifications. You really think I can do it?" "I know you can." He pulled her close. "I believe in you, Brianna. Maybe it's time you believed in yourself." That night, Brianna lay in bed thinking about everything. She'd come to Florence to save her mother and pay off a debt. Instead, she'd found love, purpose, and a glimpse of the life she wanted. The question was whether she was brave enough to reach for it. The next morning, Rosa called her to the garden. The old woman sat on a stone bench, surrounded by blooming roses. She'd been right about the colors. Red, pink, and white blossoms filled the air with perfume. "Sit with me, Cara." Brianna sat, enjoying the warm sunshine. "Your garden is beautiful." "Thank you. I've tended these roses for 20 years. Each one has a story." She touched a red bloom gently. "This one I planted the year my husband died. Red for passion, for the love we shared. These pink ones are for my grandchildren. And the white ones are for hope. For the future. They're lovely." Rosa turned to face her. "I need to tell you something. A confession, really." "What is it?" "I lied to you. To Lorenzo. To everyone." She didn't look ashamed, just pleased with herself. "My hip surgery wasn't as serious as I made it seem. I didn't really need a full-time companion. I could have managed with Maria and Antonio." Brianna's eyes widened. "What?" "When Lorenzo told me about you, about your mother's situation, I saw an opportunity. Lorenzo had been alone too long, working himself into an early grave. And you needed help. So I suggested this arrangement. I created a need for someone exactly like you." "You made up the job?" "Not entirely. I did have surgery, and having you here was lovely. But I exaggerated my recovery needs. All those times I forgot things. I was testing you, seeing what kind of person you were. And all those situations where you and Lorenzo ended up alone together? I arranged those." Brianna didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. "You've been scheming this whole time?" "Of course. I'm 82 years old. I don't have time for subtlety." Rosa smiled. "But look at the results. Lorenzo is happy. You're happy. Your mother is healthy. Everything worked out perfectly because I interfered." "Rosa, don't be angry. I did it from love. Lorenzo needed someone like you. Someone real, someone kind, someone who saw him as a man, not just as money. And you needed someone who would value you, who would support your dreams, who would love you completely. I simply helped you find each other." Brianna thought about it. The job offer had seemed too perfect, too convenient. But she'd been desperate enough not to question it. "Does Lorenzo know?" "Not yet. That's why I'm telling you first. You deserve to know the truth before you make any decisions about your future." Rosa took her hand. "I know this might change how you feel about everything. But I hope you'll forgive an old woman for meddling. I only wanted happiness for both of you. I should be furious with you. But you're not, are you?" Brianna realized Rosa was right. She wasn't angry. How could she be? Rosa's scheme had saved her mother's life and brought her and Lorenzo together. The intentions had been pure, even if the methods were sneaky. No, I'm not angry. I'm actually impressed. That was some pretty elaborate planning. Rosa laughed, delighted. Thank you. I thought so too. But Lorenzo should know. He should know the truth. Then we'll tell him together. Tonight. That evening after dinner, Rosa asked Lorenzo to join them in the sitting room. Maria brought tea, then discreetly left. The three of them sat in comfortable chairs, a fire crackling in the hearth. Lorenzo, I have something to tell you, Rosa began. Something I should have told you months ago. She explained everything. The exaggerated need for help, the carefully orchestrated situations, the deliberate scheming to bring him and Brianna together. Lorenzo listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When Rosa finished, silence filled the room. Brianna held her breath, waiting for Lorenzo's reaction. Finally he spoke. Nana, I can't believe you did all that. I know. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Sorry? He shook his head, a smile spreading across his face. I'm not mad. I'm impressed. That was incredibly clever. Rosa looked relieved. So you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. You gave me the greatest gift. You helped me find Brianna. He turned to Brianna. Does this change anything for you? Knowing that Rosa created the situation? Brianna thought carefully before answering. When I took this job, I was desperate. I would have done anything to save my mother. But over these months, something real developed between us. Our feelings aren't part of Rosa's scheme. They're genuine. So no, it doesn't change anything. I still love you. Lorenzo crossed to where she sat and knelt in front of her. I need to be completely honest with you too. I didn't just agree to Rosa's plan because she needed help. I heard you that night crying in the supply room. I heard you on the phone with the hospital about your mother's bills. I knew you were struggling and I wanted to help. You knew about my mother before you offered me this job? Yes. I created this opportunity as a way to help you without it feeling like charity. And yes, I also did it because I'd been attracted to you for months but couldn't act on it while you were my assistant. This gave us a chance away from the office, away from those power dynamics. Brianna absorbed this. Both Rosa and Lorenzo had known about her situation and had conspired to help her. They'd created this entire elaborate plan to solve her problems while also bringing her and Lorenzo together. So everyone was scheming? Everyone had good intentions, Lorenzo corrected. We all wanted to help. And in the process, something beautiful happened. We fell in love. Tears filled Brianna's eyes. I should be upset that you manipulated the situation. But I can't be. Because without your help, my mother would be dead. And I never would have had these months with you. So you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. You saved my mother's life. You gave me this opportunity. You've shown me nothing but kindness and love. How can I be angry about that? Lorenzo cupped her face in his hands. I love you so much. These months with you have been the best of my life. I don't care how we got here. I only care that we're together now. Rosa watched them with satisfaction. So we're all forgiven? Good. Because I have one more confession. I've been talking to your mother, Brianna. Video calls every week. I wanted to make sure she was doing well, and I also wanted to get to know the woman who raised such an incredible daughter. Brianna laughed through her tears. Of course you have. Is there anyone you haven't been scheming with? Maria and Antonio knew too. And Patricia at the office. We all agreed that you two belonged together. Lorenzo shook his head, amused. This is unbelievable. My entire staff and family were in on this. Not your entire staff. Just the people who care about you. Rosa stood, moving to the fire. Now, I have one more piece of advice and then I'll stop meddling. Lorenzo, if you're going to ask this woman to marry you, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Perfect moments don't exist. You create them. Lorenzo looked at Brianna, something shifting in his expression. You're right, Nana. You're absolutely right. He stood and reached into his pocket. Brianna's heart stopped. He pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this around for 3 weeks, waiting for the perfect time. But there's no time more perfect than right now, with the woman I love and my grandmother who brought us together. He opened the box. Inside was a stunning ring. A simple diamond solitaire in a platinum setting. Classic, elegant, perfect. Brianna Carter, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how much I love you? Will you build a life with me, full of adventure and love and all the things we dream about? She looked at the ring, then at Lorenzo's face. The face of the man who had saved her mother, who had given her this incredible opportunity, who had loved her when she felt unlovable. The man who made her laugh, who challenged her, who saw her for exactly who she was and loved all of it. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Lorenzo was the kind of man who paid attention to details. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her while Rosa clapped her hands in delight. Finally, Rosa said, "I thought I'd have to lock you two in a room." They laughed, the three of them, in the warm sitting room with the fire crackling. Outside, February stars sparkled over Tuscany. Inside, hearts were full and the future glowed bright with promise. Everything had worked out. The schemes, the plans, the careful orchestrations had all led to this perfect moment. And Brianna realized that sometimes accepting help when it's offered, trusting in others' good intentions, leads to more blessings than you could ever imagine. The days following Lorenzo's proposal were a whirlwind of joy. Rosa called everyone she knew to share the news. Lorenzo's mother cried happy tears over video chat. Brianna's mother Gloria, when told, screamed so loud the nurses came running. "My baby's getting married," Gloria kept saying. "To a good man who loves her. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you." Brianna and Lorenzo decided on a simple engagement period. No long wait, no elaborate planning. They wanted to start their life together as soon as possible. They set the wedding date for late March, just a month away. It would be held at Rosa's villa, in the little chapel on the property where Rosa and Giovanni had married 60 years ago. "Keep it small," Brianna insisted. "Just family and close friends. Nothing fancy." Lorenzo agreed. "Whatever makes you happy. I just want to marry you." The final weeks in Florence were bittersweet. Brianna loved this place, this peaceful villa with its beautiful gardens and warm people. She loved her daily routines with Rosa, their morning conversations over espresso, their afternoon walks through the olive grove. She loved the way the light fell golden over the Tuscan hills at sunset. She loved feeling like she belonged here. But she also missed her mother. Video calls weren't the same as being there in person. And she was ready to start the next chapter of her life, whatever that looked like. Lorenzo had business back in New York that couldn't wait any longer. He'd been working remotely for months, but his presence was needed at the office. They decided to return to New York 2 weeks before the wedding, giving Brianna time to be with her mother and handle preparations from there. Then they'd fly back to Italy for the ceremony. "I'm going to miss you terribly," Rosa said the night before they left. She and Brianna sat in the garden, wrapped in shawls against the cool evening air. "These months with you have been some of the happiest of my life. I'll miss you too. But I'll be back soon for the wedding. And you should come to New York to visit. Lorenzo has plenty of room. Maybe I will. Now that I'm healthy again, perhaps it's time I saw more of the world." Rosa smiled. "You've inspired me, Cara. You've reminded me that it's never too late for new adventures." The flight back to New York was comfortable but tinged with melancholy. Brianna looked out the window at the clouds and thought about everything that had changed since she'd first made this journey. Then she'd been desperate and hopeless, drowning in fear about her mother. Now she wore an engagement ring and carried hope in her heart. Lorenzo reached over and took her hand. "What are you thinking about? How different everything is now. 3 months ago I thought my world was ending. Now I'm getting married to you, my mother is healthy, and I have a real career ahead of me. It feels like a dream." "It's not a dream. It's real. We're real." He kissed her hand. "And it's only going to get better." They landed at JFK in the early evening. Lorenzo had arranged for 2 cars. One would take him to his penthouse apartment in Manhattan. The other would take Brianna to the hospital where her mother was still staying for final monitoring before being discharged. "I'll see you tomorrow," Lorenzo said, holding her close before she got in her car. "We'll have dinner, just the 2 of us." "I'd like that." The hospital corridors were familiar now. Brianna navigated them easily, arriving at her mother's room. She knocked softly and pushed open the door. Gloria sat in a chair by the window reading a book. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost and then some. Her skin glowed with health. Her hair, growing back after the treatment, was covered with a bright red scarf. When she saw Brianna, she stood with surprising speed. "Baby girl." They embraced, both crying. Brianna held her mother tight, feeling her warmth and strength. "You look amazing, Mama." "I feel amazing. Like I got a second chance at life." Gloria pulled back to look at her daughter. "Let me see that ring." Brianna held out her hand. The diamond caught the light, sparkling brilliantly. Gloria gasped. "It's beautiful. He has good taste." "He has great taste." They sat together talking for hours. Brianna told her everything. The months in Florence, Rosa's scheming, the growing relationship with Lorenzo, the proposal. Gloria listened, her eyes shining with joy. I prayed for this, she said softly. Not specifically for a rich man or a fancy ring. I prayed for you to find someone who would love you the way you deserve to be loved. Someone who would see your worth and treasure it. Sounds like God answered my prayers. He did, Mama. Lorenzo is wonderful. You'll love him. I already do. Anyone who saved my daughter's life and made her this happy has my eternal gratitude. Dr. Reeves stopped by during evening rounds. She smiled when she saw Brianna. I thought I heard you were back. How was Italy? Life-changing. I can see that. She turned to Gloria. Your final scans came back clean. No signs of cancer. You're officially in remission. Gloria started crying again. Clean scans. No cancer. I can't believe it. Believe it? You beat it, Gloria. The treatment worked perfectly. Dr. Reeves made notes on her chart. I'm discharging you tomorrow. You'll need to come back for monitoring every 3 months, but you can go home and resume your normal life. After Dr. Reeves left, Brianna and her mother held hands, both overwhelmed with gratitude. Against all odds, Gloria had survived. The experimental treatment had worked. They had a future together again. The next few days were busy with settling her mother back home. Gloria's apartment in Brooklyn looked the same, but everything felt different. Lighter. Hopeful. Brianna helped her unpack, stocked the refrigerator, and made sure everything was ready. You don't have to fuss over me, Gloria said. I'm not fragile anymore. I know. I just want to make sure you're comfortable. Lorenzo joined them for dinner that evening. He brought flowers for Gloria and wine for the meal. Brianna watched nervously as her mother and her fiancé met for the first time in person. But her worries were unfounded. Gloria and Lorenzo hit it off immediately. He was respectful and warm, asking about her treatment, her recovery, her plans. Gloria teased him about stealing her daughter away to Italy and made him promise to bring Brianna back for visits often. I already love you, Gloria told Lorenzo as he was leaving. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for loving my daughter. Your family now. Lorenzo's eyes grew suspiciously bright. Thank you. That means everything to me. After he left, Gloria turned to Brianna. He's a good man. A genuinely good man. You hold on to him, you hear me? I will, Mama. I promise. Work started the following Monday. Brianna reported to Bianchi Global Enterprises, but instead of going to her old desk, she went to the 20th floor. The International Relations Department. Her new office was spacious, with windows overlooking the city. Patricia Wong met her there, grinning. Welcome to your new position, Director Carter. The title felt surreal. Brianna looked around the office at the desk and computer and shelves waiting to be filled with her work. This is really happening. It's really happening. Lorenzo told me to give you 2 weeks to settle in before any major projects. But we have several international clients eager to work with someone who speaks their language. Lorenzo kept his distance at work, maintaining professionalism. They'd agreed to keep their personal relationship private at the office as much as possible. But Brianna caught him smiling at her in meetings, and she felt warmth bloom in her chest every time. She met her new team. 3 people reported to her. Thomas, who handled European accounts, Lynn, who specialized in Asian markets, and Carlos, who covered Latin America. They were all experienced and welcoming, excited to have a director who understood multiple cultures and languages. The work was challenging and fulfilling. Brianna coordinated with overseas offices, negotiated with international partners, and helped smooth cultural misunderstandings in business deals. She used her Italian daily, her Spanish frequently, and even brushed up on her French for a project with a Parisian firm. She was good at this. Really good. And knowing she'd earned this position through her own merits, not just because of her relationship with Lorenzo, made it all the sweeter. 2 weeks before the wedding, they held a small engagement party. Lorenzo's penthouse apartment was transformed with flowers and soft lighting. Family and friends gathered. Rosa flew in from Florence, declaring New York too loud and too fast, but obviously delighted to be there. Brianna's mother wore a beautiful green dress and looked healthier than she had in years. She and Rosa bonded immediately, 2 strong women who'd survived hardship and come out stronger. Your grandmother is something else, Gloria told Brianna. She told me all about her scheming. That woman is a mastermind. She is. But her heart was in the right place. Andre, the security guard, came to the party, bringing his wife and grown children. Patricia Wong brought her husband. Lorenzo's family filled the space with laughter and loud Italian conversations. Jennifer Liu, the temporary assistant who'd covered Brianna's position, came and seemed thrilled to be included. As Brianna looked around the room at all these people who'd become important to her, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year ago she'd been alone and desperate. Now she was surrounded by family, both blood and chosen. Lorenzo found her standing by the window looking out at the city lights. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Happy?" he asked. "So happy I'm scared. Like it's too good to be true." "It's not too good. It's exactly what we both deserve." He turned her to face him. "I have something for you. An early wedding gift." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter written in Italian. Brianna read it, her eyes widening. It was from Rosa but dated years ago, before Lorenzo had even met Brianna. In it, Rosa wrote to her future granddaughter-in-law, whoever she might be. She wrote about love and family, about the importance of kindness and faith, about how the Bianchi family welcomed those who loved with open hearts. "She wrote this 10 years ago," Lorenzo explained. "She told me she had a feeling that someday I'd find the right person, and she wanted them to know they were already loved, already family before we even met." Brianna's eyes filled with tears. "She really is amazing." "She is. And so are you." They kissed softly, surrounded by the sounds of laughter and conversation from their celebration. In 2 weeks they'd be married. In 2 weeks they'd start their official life together. But in many ways their life had already begun. It had begun the day Brianna answered a phone call in Italian. The day Lorenzo decided to help someone who needed it. The day Rosa decided to scheme for love. It had begun with kindness and it would continue with love. And that, Brianna thought, was the best foundation anyone could hope for. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright over Florence. Brianna woke early in her room at Rosa's villa, sunlight streaming through the French doors. Today was the day. Today she would marry Lorenzo Bianchi in the little chapel where his grandparents had married 60 years ago. Her mother slept in the next room, having arrived 2 days ago with Aunt Teresa. Gloria was the picture of health now, her energy returned, her smile constant. Watching her mother healthy and happy was the greatest gift Brianna could have asked for. A knock on the door. "Brianna? You awake?" Rosa's voice. "Come in." Rosa entered, carrying a tray with espresso and pastries. Despite being 82, she moved with the energy of someone decades younger. She wore a bright blue dress, her wedding outfit, with pearls at her neck. "The bride shouldn't be alone on her wedding morning," Rosa said, setting the tray down. "In Italy, it's tradition for the women of the family to help the bride prepare." As if on cue, more women arrived. Gloria, Aunt Teresa, Lorenzo's mother Sophia, his sister Gabriella, and even Maria the housekeeper. They filled the room with chatter and laughter, bringing more food, champagne, and flowers. "We're going to make you the most beautiful bride Florence has ever seen," Gabriella declared. Brianna's wedding dress hung in the armoire. She'd chosen something simple and elegant. An ivory silk gown with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. Nothing too elaborate. The dress felt like her, graceful and understated. As the women helped her dress, they shared stories and advice. Rosa talked about her own wedding day, how nervous she'd been, how Giovanni had whispered jokes to her during the ceremony to make her smile. Sophia shared how Lorenzo had been as a little boy, serious and thoughtful even then. Gloria told embarrassing childhood stories about Brianna that made everyone laugh. "You look beautiful," Gloria said softly, adjusting Brianna's veil. "Your father would be so proud." Brianna's father had died when she was young. She barely remembered him, but she knew he'd been a good man who'd loved her mother fiercely. "I wish he could be here." "He is here. In spirit. And he's smiling down, happy that you found such a good man." The ceremony was set for 3 p.m. At 2:45, Brianna made her way down to the chapel, a small stone building covered in climbing roses. Inside, wooden pews lined either side of a center aisle. Simple stained glass windows cast colored light across the space. It was intimate and perfect. The guests were already seated. About 40 people total. Close family and friends only, just as they'd wanted. Brianna spotted Andre and his family, Patricia Wong and her husband, Brianna's college roommate who'd flown in from California. On Lorenzo's side, she saw business partners who'd become friends, cousins from across Italy, and several of his closest confidants. Rosa sat in the front row, beaming with pride. She'd orchestrated this whole thing, really. Without her scheming, Brianna and Lorenzo never would have found each other. But looking at Rosa's face, Brianna felt only gratitude. Music began. A string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. Gloria walked Brianna down the aisle, taking the father's traditional role. There were tears in her mother's eyes but also pure joy. And then Brianna saw Lorenzo and everything else faded away. He stood at the altar in a dark navy suit, looking more handsome than should be legal. But it was his expression that stole her breath. Pure love. Pure happiness. Like she was the most precious thing in his world. Gloria placed Brianna's hand in Lorenzo's, then took her seat. The priest, an elderly man who'd known Rosa for decades, smiled at them. Dearly beloved. The ceremony passed in a beautiful blur. They exchanged vows, first in English, then in Italian at Rosa's insistence. Brianna promised to love Lorenzo in sickness and health, in joy and sorrow. Lorenzo promised to cherish her, to support her dreams, to walk beside her through all of life's adventures. When it came time for rings, Lorenzo spoke directly to her, his voice steady and sure. This ring represents my promise to you. My promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life. My promise to build a life full of love and laughter and kindness. My promise that you'll never face anything alone again. Brianna's hands shook as she slid a platinum band onto his finger. This ring represents my promise to you. My promise to love you completely, to support your dreams as you've supported mine. My promise to be your partner, your friend, your home. My promise that whatever comes, we'll face it together. The priest smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Lorenzo, you may kiss your bride. Lorenzo cupped Brianna's face in his hands and kissed her softly, tenderly, while their family and friends erupted in applause. When they pulled apart, both were crying happy tears. They walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, and the chapel bells began to ring. Outside, in the garden, Antonio and Maria had set up tables for the reception. White lights were strung through the trees and flowers adorned every surface. The dinner was a feast. Course after course of traditional Italian food, each more delicious than the last. Wine flowed freely, and toasts were made in both English and Italian. Rosa stood to speak, her voice carrying across the garden. When I first schemed to bring these two together, I hoped they would find happiness. But what I see today exceeds my wildest dreams. Lorenzo and Brianna don't just love each other. They've become better people. Together. They've reminded all of us what really matters. Family. Kindness. Love. She raised her glass. To the bride and groom. May your love grow stronger with each passing year. Gloria went next, her voice thick with emotion. 3 months ago I was dying. I'd accepted it, made peace with it. But my daughter refused to give up. She found a way to save me even when it seemed impossible. And in saving me, she found her own salvation. She found love. Gloria looked at Lorenzo. Thank you for seeing how special my daughter is. Thank you for loving her the way she deserves. Welcome to our family. Patricia Wong stood, grinning. I've worked with Lorenzo for 8 years, and I've never seen him smile as much as he does when Brianna's around. She makes him laugh. She challenges him. She makes him better. That's what real love does. It doesn't complete you because you were already whole. It enhances you. It makes the good parts better and the hard parts easier. She raised her glass. To enhancement. To partnership. To love that makes us all better. As the sun set over Tuscany, casting golden light across the villa, Brianna and Lorenzo had their first dance. The string quartet played and they swayed together, lost in each other. Happy. Lorenzo whispered. More than I ever thought possible. Good. Because I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you stay this happy. That's a big promise. I'm good for it. I'm a billionaire, remember? I can afford the happiness payments. She laughed, pressing her face against his chest. I love you so much. I love you more. They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by everyone they loved. The party continued late into the night, filled with music and laughter and joy. At one point, Brianna found herself dancing with her mother, both of them giggling like girls. This is the best day of my life, Gloria said. Mine too. No regrets? About taking that job? About trusting Lorenzo? About accepting help when you needed it? Brianna thought about the journey that had brought her here. The desperation, the fear, the willingness to try anything to save her mother. The decision to accept Lorenzo's offer with gratitude instead of pride. The choice to open her heart to love instead of keeping it protected. No regrets. Not a single one. Taking that job, accepting that help, it saved us both. It gave us this future. Around midnight, Lorenzo and Brianna slipped away from the party. They walked to the fountain in the garden, the same place they'd first kissed, the same place he'd first told her he loved her. Do you remember that first call? Lorenzo asked. When you answered in Italian, and I realized you were exactly who I'd been looking for? I remember. I was terrified I'd mess it up. You were perfect. You've been perfect from the start. I'm not perfect. You're perfect for me. That's all that matters. He turned her to face him. I have a wedding present for you. Besides the obvious present of my devastatingly handsome self. She laughed. Your modesty is overwhelming. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Open it. Inside were legal documents. Brianna scanned them, her eyes widening. Lorenzo, what is this? It's a trust fund. For your mother. Enough to cover any future medical expenses, plus a comfortable living situation for the rest of her life. She'll never have to worry about money or healthcare again. But you already paid for her treatment. That was for the treatment. This is for her future. For her peace of mind. And yours. I never want you to worry about taking care of her again. She's family now, which means I take care of her too. Brianna's eyes filled with tears. You've already done so much. I've done what family does. What love does. What any decent person would do when they have the means to help. He wiped away her tears gently. Accept it with gratitude, remember? That's what you do. You accept love and help when it's offered. She remembered those instructions from so long ago. About accepting offers without hesitation with grateful hearts. About letting kindness in instead of pushing it away with pride. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for everything. For saving my mother, for loving me, for showing me what it means to be truly cared for. Thank you for letting me. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing past the money and the power to the man underneath. They kissed under the stars, surrounded by the scent of roses and the soft sound of music from the party still going on behind them. It was a moment of perfect peace, of perfect happiness. The suspense that had filled the early months of their relationship was gone, replaced by certainty. Brianna knew beyond any doubt that she'd made the right choice. That accepting Lorenzo's help had been the best decision of her life. That opening her heart to love had led to more blessings than she could have imagined. 3 months later, back in New York, Brianna walked into a charity event at Bianchi Global Enterprises. The company was hosting a fundraiser for cancer research, something Lorenzo had organized in honor of Gloria's recovery. The ballroom was filled with donors and supporters. Gloria stood near the entrance, healthy and radiant in a bright red dress, greeting guests and sharing her story. Her recovery had inspired the entire event, and the donations were pouring in. Lorenzo found Brianna in the crowd and pulled her close. Ready for my announcement? What announcement? He led her to the stage where a microphone waited. The crowd quieted as he began to speak. Thank you all for coming tonight. Cancer touches almost every family, and we're here to support research that will save lives. My new mother-in-law, Gloria Carter, is living proof that with the right treatment, cancer can be beaten. Gloria waved from the crowd and people applauded. Lorenzo continued. Tonight, I'm proud to announce that Bianchi Global Enterprises is establishing the Carter Foundation for Cancer Research. We're committing $50 million to experimental treatment research, with a focus on making these treatments accessible to everyone, regardless of ability to pay. The crowd erupted in applause. Brianna stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. $50 million. In her mother's name. To help other families facing the same impossible choices they'd faced. Lorenzo pulled her close. No one should have to choose between saving someone they love and financial ruin. If we can change that for even one family, it's worth it. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and thank yous. People approached Gloria to hear her story, to share their own experiences with cancer, to thank Lorenzo and Brianna for their generosity. At the end of the night, after the last guests had left, Brianna, Lorenzo, and Gloria stood together in the empty ballroom. I can't believe you did this, Gloria said, her voice thick with emotion. You inspired it, Lorenzo said simply. Your fight, your courage, your recovery. It showed us what's possible when people get the help they need. Now we're going to make sure others have that same chance. Brianna looked at her husband and her mother, these two people she loved more than anything. A year ago she'd been alone and desperate, watching her mother die. Now she stood in a room that represented hope and healing, married to a man who used his wealth to make the world better, with her mother healthy and thriving beside her. Kindness had led her here. Hope had sustained her. Love had transformed everything. As they walked out of the building together into the New York night, Brianna thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. A desperate phone call. A woman who answered in Italian. A billionaire who said, "Don't let her leave." A grandmother who schemed for love. A mother who fought for life. A man who chose kindness over indifference. And now, a future full of possibility. What are you thinking about? Lorenzo asked, squeezing her hand. I'm thinking about how one moment can change everything. How saying yes to help, even when you're scared, can lead to more blessings than you ever imagined. Regrets? Not a single one. He kissed her gently. Good. Because this is just the beginning. We have a whole lifetime ahead of us. And as they walked down the street together, Brianna knew he was right. This was just the beginning. The beginning of a life built on love and trust and the willingness to accept help when it was offered. The beginning of a story that would inspire others to have faith, even in their darkest moments. Because sometimes when you think all hope is lost, someone reaches out a hand. And if you're brave enough to take it, if you're humble enough to accept help with gratitude, everything can change. Brianna had answered a call in Italian in front of her billionaire boss. Hours later, he'd said, "Don't let her leave." And in doing so, he'd changed both their lives forever. That was the power of kindness. That was the power of hope. That was the power of love. And that power, Brianna now knew, could transform the world.